Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our natural living workshop with community herbalist Lily Kunning. We are greatly appreciative of her volunteering with us and providing these valuable workshops. I just love all the sessions that she offers every month. She will be taking December off, but we will be back in our regular schedule in January. And today, Lily's going to be talking about a very important topic, which will include stress management. So, Lily, I'm not going to take any more of your time other than to say welcome, and we're so glad you're with us this morning.
Thank you, Darlene. I'm always happy to be here. Yeah, so I like to do the stress management and emotional regulation session as we get closer and closer to holiday season because while they can be really lovely and joyous and times to get together with loved ones, it can also add a whole layer of stress onto um, a life where, you're maybe already trying to cope with a level of stress and change. So, um, yeah, let me admit this person. There we go. All right, so let me share my screen and get started here. Can we see it? Yes. Okay, great. Yeah, so just in time for the holidays, we're going to talk about different ways that we can cope with stress and change and help stay emotionally well during the holiday season and beyond, really. A lot of the tips that I'm going to give you work for your everyday. And I do know that there is an emotional component to recovering from something like cancer. You know, as a holistic practitioner, an herbalist, I treat the whole person. And so when I see people who are struggling with a physical ailment, I also know that there is an emotional component. So this is applicable not just during the holidays, but throughout. And I guess maybe if you're not aware, I wanted to mention how chronic stress can actually harm a person because stress is actually the feelings that you get in your body from stress are because of your endocrine system, your system of hormones that regulate your whole body. Um, and so the stress response system has to do with your adrenals and cortisol. Um, and when you are stressed out and suddenly like panicked, cortisol is released into the body. And I don't know about you, but when I have one of those unexpected cortisol spikes, I kind of feel poisoned afterwards. Like you feel kind of sick and queasy, and you just want to like curl up in the fetal position and not deal. Um, and so, what we want to do is we want to become a more resilient person so that when you do have situational stress, that your body doesn't immediately like start spewing cortisol everywhere. Because it does put you at increased risk for different kinds of health problems, including long term anxiety and depression, um, as well as some physical things like, digestive problems or sleep problems. It can lead to brain fog and memory loss. And it can include immune dysfunction if it goes on for long enough, right? We want to keep our bodies in a state of healthy homeostasis, not constantly going up and down and up and down. And that's what cortisol spikes do to us. Stress, you've probably heard, is a killer, right? It will kill you faster than some ailments or infections. So we want to find ways to become less stressed, be able to manage the level of stress that we deal with every day, and become more resilient so that we can recover quickly when we are stressed. And this time of year, just want to, acknowledge that in addition to our regular levels of stress of dealing with home and relationships and work and all of that, and illness, this time of year adds a whole nother layer. Some people feel like they have to make the perfect dinner or they have to decorate the house a certain way, and maybe they don't have the energy to do that this year. If you are missing some loved ones or you're separated from them by distance, you can get really lonely this time of year because everyone reminds you that it's a time to spend with your family and friends. So, there's just a lot of added um, emotions this time of year. And so I just want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. You know, this year, for example, for me, was a divorce year. And I am now a single mother and I am in a totally different state. And so, like, we are learning to create new traditions, but there's an element of sadness there and loss. And so, um, we need to figure out how to manage all of that on top of, me moving tomorrow, right? Yay, I get to move the day before Thanksgiving. Stress. Um, right? So, there's a lot going on for everybody. And I want to acknowledge that everyone in this room has a struggle that they're dealing with, and it can cause a lot of stress. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is who is in your support network. It's a rhetorical question, and I want you to think about all the different kinds of people that are surround you in your life. And find, evaluate, are those people who help you, that listen to you, that make you laugh, that make you feel good, or do they do the opposite? We want to surround ourselves when we are stressed and when we are ill with people who can support us and be there for us in their own way. And so think about the relationships that you have, and this time of year especially, seek out the company of those who do these things for you, who help you, who support you, who listen to you, who, make you feel good. And if some of those people that don't do those things have to be in your life this time of year, we all have those family members, right? um, then, minimize their effects on you, whether that's spending less time with them or, being on the other side of the room, whatever it is, think about how you can manage that to make your experience less stressful. And I encourage you to think about it in advance, right? If you know the variables of how you are going to interact with folks who do not support you, um, you can help manage that to make it more doable for you. Instead of dread, you can have a plan. It's always better to have a plan. Um, and I just want to remind folks that even though there are all of these extra obligations that come with the holidays, all the basic healthy lifestyle things are still important. You need to get outside, even though it's cold, right? So bundle up and go take a walk. You need to continue to eat healthy, even though the office has a big plate of sweets every day now. You need to get decent sleep, and make sure that your sleep routine is beneficial and supportive of sleep. You need to get movement. So, even though it's colder now, think of different things that you can do to support the physical expression of your body, right? So, one of the things that I like to do, and I'll talk about this when we get to some mindfulness practices, is I turn on YouTube and I have like 3 or 4 different Qigong videos that I follow along to. Um, and that keeps me flexible. It's actually much harder of a workout than it looks like, I will tell you. When you start doing it, you're like, oh, this is challenging. And it gets me moving. And I like to do it in the morning because I'm all stiff when I wake up, and I want to do it in the morning to kind of frame my day. So all the basic lifestyle things are important. Doing things that make you happy, eating well, getting outside, sleeping 8 hours, moving around. Please continue to do all those things because they help you and your body minimize the impacts of stress. All right, let's see here. Another thing that you can do, and we're going to try this together, is focusing on your breath. Um, Breathing is something that continues to bring you into the present. And focusing on your breath is a mindfulness practice that keeps you present rather than focusing on other things that make you anxious or depressed. One of the things that I was told by a therapist that really stuck with me is anxiety is constantly living in the future. You're constantly dwelling on, oh no, like this thing is going to happen, or how do I stop this thing, or oh my gosh, I have a deadline, or whatever it is. And that's living in the future. And it makes us anxious. And depression tends to be living in the past and thinking about regrets and thinking about just, not being here and wishing things were different. But being present actually helps clear our minds and makes us happier people. And one way to be present is by focusing on your breath. And so one of the ways that I like to do it, particularly if I am feeling anxious or I'm having a panic attack, or I've had a cortisol spike, is the fourfold breath exercise. And what we do is we breathe in to the count of four, we hold it for the count of four, we exhale for the count of four, and we pause for the count of four. And it slows everything down physiologically. And by mindfully paying attention to your breath and counting, you're also slowing down your central nervous system, that monkey mind that is making us anxious. And what I like to do is add a level of visualization to my fourfold breath. So after I have done the fourfold breath for a few times and I've started calming down, I like to think that when I'm inhaling my connection to the whole world, all the trees, all the birds, everything, right? And then I hold it and I store that connection. And then as I'm exhaling, I'm pushing out all of the stress and anxiety that I feel in my body, right? And I'm pushing it out. And the world can absorb that. And so on your pause for four, you are witnessing the world taking your stress and transforming it into life force. And then you breathe in that life force and you store it. You breathe out everything that is making you anxious and you give it back to the world because it can handle it. You're only a tiny thing. The world is much bigger than you, right? And so focusing on your breath in this way will not only calm your central nervous system, it stops the chatter of monkey mind and makes you present. It also reminds you that you are not alone and that you are part of something much bigger. And often when you are feeling anxious, and I am an anxious person, so I get this. Um, when we're feeling anxious, we're so caught up in our own thing that we forget how small we really are and how big the world is and how many options and things of benefit to us that exist out in the world. We forget. And so this is a way to reframe everything and remember who we are in relation to everything else. So I highly encourage you to to try that fourfold breath exercise because it really does help. It seems very simple, and it is, but it is really effective. There are other mindfulness exercises that you can do to get out of anxiety brain. I really love journaling, and recently I bought a planner that not only is like my schedule and my to-do list, but half of it is like 2 pages for every day of the year, and I get to journal in it, right? Um, it is my way of just reflecting on what is happening. And sometimes I don't know what to write, so I Google a journaling prompt and write based on the prompt. And sometimes I have plenty to say. So, journaling is a really great way of staying mindful. Prayer is another. So is sitting practice, literally sitting meditation, like Vipassana, for example. And in Columbus, there are so many places to do meditation. There are several different Buddhist centers where it is open. You are welcome to come, whether you are Buddhist or not. And they have really lovely either sitting practice, walking practice. They do walking meditation. um, all different kinds. So I would highly encourage you to check out some of the different places that offer meditation. Um, there are all kinds of hobbies. And the thing I love about hobbies, particularly ones that, involve working on something, is that it involves your mind and your body, right? I do embroidery. Now, embroidery is embellishment, right? Like it's not a necessary thing, but it makes things beautiful. It keeps me in the present. You have to kind of be aware of what you're doing or you're going to make a bad stitch. So I really like things like that. And one of the things I'd really love to do, but I just don't have the space or equipment, is pottery. So if you have like a rec center near you, a pottery class is fantastic. Um, they have so many different classes you can take at the Parks and Rec for sure. The other thing that is really helpful is mindful cooking and mindful eating. Too often we don't value the sacredness and the healing powers of our food. And if you actually spend time sort of creating a meal plan and then executing the recipes in a very mindful, intentional way and infuse that food with love and intention and wellness, and then sit down and slowly eat it. Don't eat on the run. Don't take it with you. Don't, wolf it down in 30 minutes. Mindful eating, mindful cooking is so beneficial for all of us. And sharing it with people is also a really lovely thing to do. So, cooking for others, I really enjoy that. And then sharing the food. I did that last night. I made chicken paprikash. It was delicious. Qigong, I mentioned this before. I really love Qigong. And there are different forms of Qigong. I really like medical Qigong. And that is where we pay attention to the different systems of the body and we infuse them with wellness. I remember the first time I ever did medical Qigong was at a YMCA in Berkeley, California. And we watered our kidneys and we massaged our heart, right? Like all of these things were new to me. And I was very intrigued. And now I tend to do the 8 pieces of silk brocade uh, routine, which is a very classic Qigong routine that kind of does a whole body stretch over the different 8 positions that you do. Qigong is not just the only mindfulness movement exercise. You can also do Tai Chi. And if you go to parks, often you'll see people doing Tai Chi routines in the morning. Um, it is a really lovely practice. And like I said, you can find someone to teach you how to do it on YouTube. You don't have to leave your house in the cold of winter to do these in the park. You can do them at home. And then once it gets warmer, maybe join somebody in the park. Martial arts classes are also very mindful. They unite mind and body and help keep you present. So is yoga. And one of the things I like to do once the weather's nicer is get outside. And so doing movement outside, whether that's a walk or something else, is really great. And the Japanese have a name for going out into the forest where you can't hear human beings. It's called forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku. And it is really beneficial for people who are anxious or depressed. Studies show that getting outside, hearing birdsong, feeling wind and sun on your face relieves anxiety and depression. So try and do it regularly. Playing with animals and children, super fun to do, uh, makes you laugh, and keeps you young and keeps you present, right? It's hard to think about a work deadline when, your grandkids are kicking your butt at sorry, right? So definitely try and do that. Um, the people that I'm staying with, the youngest is only 5 years old, and every day she is on her iPad with her Gigi, her grandma, and they play video games together on the iPad. Like she's in a totally different state, but they do this every day, and I think it's beautiful. And games and puzzles, right? Games and puzzles definitely keep you present and, engaged. So there's many, many ways to stay mindful and not anxious or depressed. The other thing that is super helpful is actually describing your mood, because often we are so out of touch with what we're feeling other than bad that we don't necessarily know what we're feeling or how we got to this place. So the journaling can really help uh, reveal your inner landscape. And when you start feeling bad, think about, okay, when did I start feeling bad? What happened in that moment? Was it something someone said, or was it something that happened that you did? What were you thinking of? Who was around you? Trying to figure out where these feelings come from is the first step in not feeling them anymore, right? So journaling can really help you discover why these things happen. If you don't know why you're feeling bad, this is a very valuable exercise. And of course, another way of staying present is having a gratitude practice. One of the things I do with my kid, and he rolls his eyes and he groans, but before we eat every meal together, we talk about what we're grateful for that day, and it can be super small, like, I'm grateful that, we are having this meal together. Or it could be really big. Doesn't have to be monumental each and every time, but remembering what is good is sometimes hard when you feel bad. So reminding ourselves of what is good is so important. And I always tell my kid, when they're struggling and they're like, I can't think of anything. And it's like, well, then you need to do this more often. You need to do this every day, you know? So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait and I'm going to have you tell me one thing you're grateful for. It's a very important practice. And, I like to talk about reframing how we talk to ourselves, because often we hurt ourselves by using language that causes bad feelings. So on the right hand side of the screen, we talk about have to do. So, like, I get up in the morning and I look at my planner. Oh, I have to teach this cancer support community class at 9 a.m. No, I get to teach this cancer support community class because I really do enjoy teaching this class. I really do love connecting with folks and helping people. Not only do I get to do it, I'm blessed to do it, right? It is a blessing in my life that I get to have information and knowledge that I get to share with people to help them. It is a blessing. So reframing, when you're feeling bad and you're just like, oh, I have to do this thing. Well, what about that thing is a blessing? Let's figure it out together, right? And so really wading through. So I do this with my kid, much to their chagrin, when they're like, oh, I have to do this project for high school, because he's a freshman in high school. And I'm like, cool, what are you doing? Like, and I draw it out of him until finally he's thinking positively and he's annoyed with me about it. So that is something, reframing your thinking so that you are not telling yourself stories of negativity. And I'm not talking about only being positive all the time. Bad stuff happens, right? Like, I'm not telling you to be one of those toxic positivity people. I'm saying, think about uh, what is the silver lining in your cloud? The cloud still exists, right? But how do we get something out of it of benefit? Um, like I put on the slide, happiness is an inside job. It literally is something that only you can do for yourself. You cannot get happiness from outside, like your circumstance. Your circumstance could be anything on the outside. Happiness comes from the inside, how we deal with our circumstance. Um, and so, I encourage you to think about how you talk to yourself, because that also can really help with emotional well being. Oh yeah. This time of year especially, oh my gosh, and post-election, um, take a break from social media or even mainstream media. Because a lot of times we get, when we're in a bad place, the news tends to be bad, right? Like, that's how they get people to watch. They get people to watch out of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Oh no. Um, Take a break. The world continues. You do not need every single update. What I tend to do for news is, and I pride myself on being aware of what's going on in the world. I think I read news 2 or 3 times a week. And I do it at times of my day where I can make space for it and think about it. And I also select how I get my news. I actually downloaded an app that I really like. I paid for it because I liked it. And it evaluates the news and what its bias is, whether it's from the left or the right. Gives me a clean synopsis, tell me how factual it is, and then I can decide I want to read the different stories, and it like evaluates all the different places who are reporting that news story, and whether it's high factuality, mixed factuality, coming from the left, coming from the right. It allows me to see the balance, and I really value that. So I do that 2 or 3 times a week. I don't do it every day. I used to listen to NPR every morning, and you know what, it made me anxious. I don't do that anymore because I want to start my day in a way where I'm ready and capable and feeling good. So, I take care of our animals, I take care of my kid, I have breakfast, I do Qigong, and then I teach a class for cancer support community, and that's all good, right? I haven't looked at social media today. I haven't read the news yet today. And you know what? The world's still spinning. So it's all good. Um, but yeah, if you are feeling stressed out, try this. Try a media fast. You'll be surprised. Like, just turn off all the screens and do something in the real world. I guarantee you, you're going to feel better. When you are upset and you're freaking out, think about what it is you can do about your situation and come up with a plan of what you're going to do. And what you can't control, you just need to let it go. Right. And that is a very hard thing to do. I say this as someone who has controlling tendencies. I want to be able to control everything. And as an anxious person, we like to know that we are in control of our lives, right? But the fact is that there are parts of our lives that we do not control. And you know, it's how we react and respond that counts, right? Things are going to happen to us, around us, with us, and how we react is what we can control. So, how are you going to react? When I get really anxious, I stop, I pause. Because if I make decisions in that moment, I'm probably going to make a bad decision. If I do work in that moment, it's going to be, from like chattering brain. I don't know if it's going to be good. So I stop and I breathe and, I try and release what is bothering me. And then I go back to whatever it is I have to do, get to do, are blessed to do, right? Because then I am in control again of my own body. This is what you can control. This little piece of real estate right here is what you can control. And you get to decide how you're going to respond to stuff. The Buddhists say the root of all suffering is attachment. And what they mean by that is ego attachment, right? You are ego attached to a specific outcome, for example. And when it doesn't happen the way you want, you suffer, right? So letting go of attachment doesn't mean not caring. That is not the right interpretation. But what it means is, regardless of the outcome, you will be okay, right? That is what they're trying to say. And so letting go of ego attachment is a very difficult exercise. It is a lifetime practice. Most people do not reach the Buddha state of enlightenment, right? We all struggle with it. It's something that every day it comes up, and every day you struggle. But uh, it really does make you a happier person. I have to say, some of the most well-adjusted, happy people I have met have been Buddhists. Um, and I always left their presence smiling and really wanting to be more like them. Like, ah, but I have a problem with ego attachment. I definitely find myself being like, ugh, I wanted to go like that, you know? Um, but it makes you unhappy. So I highly recommend thinking about, if you're stewing and fixating on a specific problem, a specific relationship, a specific person, you can't change other people, you can only change yourself and your actions. And you can't necessarily determine the outcome of every situation that you're involved in. Um, so, yeah, ego attachment. Now let's talk about herbs because I'm an herbalist. So we're going to talk about two classifications of herbs. These are called herbal actions because of the action that they have on our systems of the body. The first one I want to talk about is adaptogens. Now, adaptogens are becoming more popular, so maybe you've heard of them. But what they are is non-specific, meaning that they work on multiple systems of the body, and they help you cope with stress and change, both physical, mental, and emotional. All three, not both. Um, and they really help people recover and become more resilient. And so there's some quotes here about adaptogens. The one that you see in the picture is a ginormous reishi mushroom, and they are literally that shiny. They look like they've been lacquered, but they haven't. That is how they grow. Reishi is an amazing adaptogen that is not only helping you cope with stress and change, it's an immunomodulator. For people that have autoimmune disease or cancer, reishi is a valuable, valuable thing to take because it helps your immune system make really good choices over time. Um, and when I have my herb students, I have them take an herb every month and experience it in their body as we're going through the different systems of the body. When we get to the immune system, I have them take reishi, and virtually everyone was like, ooh, I liked how that made me feel, right? Over the course of a month taking this reishi, I'm going to keep taking it. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. It's it's one of those things that really just make you feel great. There are other adaptogens that you may have heard of, like ginseng or ashwagandha or tulsi, rhodiola, eleuthero. All of these are adaptogens. And they, like I said, they work on the stress response, but they also have usually at least one other secondary system that they work on. And so when I work with people and I'm going to put adaptogens in their formula, I tend to pick ones that will help them on multiple fronts. So when I work with folks who have cancer, reishi or some of the other medicinal mushrooms, turkey tail for people that had breast cancer, for example, um, those are really great choices of adaptogens. When I'm working with someone who is diabetic or pre-diabetic, I will put Tulsi in their formula because it is really great at balancing blood sugar. If I'm working with someone who has anxiety and insomnia, ashwagandha is their friend. So I put that in their formula. There is an adaptogen for everyone, and working with a practitioner to figure out which one would be good for you is highly recommended. Likewise, there is a nervine for everyone. Now, nervines work on the nervous system, right? And so stress and anxiety um, are a combination of systems, right? It's the endocrine system that adaptogens work on. It's also the nervous system, that racing heart, there's, constant chatter of thoughts, the jumpiness that comes with anxiety, or the depressive state of just not being able to do anything and being depressed. Nervines work on the nervous system, and there are nervine sedatives. So people who are anxious might benefit from nervine sedatives. There are nervine tonics, People who have nervous system disorders like Parkinson's or MS could benefit from nervine tonics. And then there are nervine stimulants, which we are all intimately familiar with. If you drink coffee or tea or soda, caffeine is a nervine stimulant. Um, and there's a nervine that works for everyone. Sometimes certain nervines are just too much for some people, and so it's a process of trial and error to find out your magic nervine. And I've named some here. Like chamomile is a very common one. That picture right there is chamomile. If you've never had uh, whole flower chamomile and you've just had the like chopped up chamomile tea in a bag from the grocery store, you haven't really had chamomile. It is very potent when you get the whole flower. Lemon balm is a fantastic nervine that not only helps calm, but it also is non sedating and feels very cheerful when you're taking it. So, you know, lemon balm can be a really good friend to folks. Uh, California poppy is in the poppy family, but is not an opioid and is a really great nervine sedative. There's a nervine for everyone. And again, working with a practitioner, if you've got jumpy, anxious, panic attacks or anything like that, working with a practitioner to find a formula that in the moment can help calm things down or as a tonic to fortify your system. Depends on what you need, but working with a practitioner can really help. Um, so, in short, I have time for Q&A. I just want to say, like, when you're having a hard time, uh, just take a breath, think about all of your blessings, think about how you're going to get out of that situation because it's just a bad day. That's all. Feelings are temporary, as I like to tell my kid. You're having a bad time right now, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a bad time tomorrow. And those are the websites where you can reach me. So Haven Herbs is my apothecary for ready-made things, including nervine formulas and adaptogen formulas. And lilykunning.com is where I see clients and also teach classes. I have lots of online classes for you to learn if you are interested in that. And I'm going to send this slideshow to Darlene so that she can send it out to attendees. Happy to do so. Um, but yeah, we have time for questions.
So our first
I went through
question,
that really fast and we're only, we have about 20 minutes left. So I welcome your questions.
so the first question in the chat, Susan asked, are there foods or supplements that can help with monkey brain? My
Mm,
medication has a side effect of causing feelings of anxiety.
oh, sure. Yes, there are definitely herbs. And what I would say to you is if you're on medication, you want to work with a practitioner to find the right combination of things rather than dabbling and possibly making your medication less effective or making your anxiety worse. Work with a practitioner who is familiar with pharma and can make sure that whatever is recommended to you is going to work for you. But yes, there are. There is hope.
The next one I put in the chat as a comment saying that cancer support community has a lot of these mindfulness practices. We
Mhm.
offer with Kevin Kraska a mindfulness hour twice a month. We have 3 cooking for wellness classes a month. Qigong is every Thursday. We have Gento and chair yoga every week. We do offer journaling once a quarter. And then we're very excited about this, Lily. We have a passport to wellness hike that we did in the spring and summer, a couple of times um, each month on Saturdays. They would go out with a health coach and a nurse practitioner, do some health education, and then take a walk out in nature. Um, and we're going to extend those into the winter time. So we'll have one in January, February, March, and then in April, we're going to start back up with our spring and go into the summer hike. So very excited about getting physical activity out in nature.
That's
Um,
amazing. I love all of that. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I am so um glad to be a part of cancer support community in the way that I participate because there's just such good programming. Um, and, you know, it's such an asset. I'm so grateful that cancer support community is out there for folks when they need it the most. It is really lovely.
We're so fortunate that we get to work with you. A question, does Haven Herbs have a mushroom coffee?
We have had a mushroom coffee in the past. I'm reformulating it because it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So, what I recommend, and I drink mushroom coffee instead of coffee in the morning. Usually, when I drink coffee, it's when I hit that afternoon wall, and then I'm like, I need a coffee. So, that's when I drink coffee. But in the mornings, I drink an adaptogen coffee, and I've tried several of them. I like both Everyday Dose, which is mushrooms, collagen, some amino acids for energy. It's really lovely. Um, and I also currently use what's called Joey, Joe apostrophe Y, and it's more cacao based rather than coffee based. So there's still some caffeine in there, but it has more medicinal mushrooms in it than the Everyday Dose. Um, but yeah, no, there's a ton of them out there. There's another one called Mud Water that I want to try. MUDWTR, Mud Water. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of them. Haven will be making one, but honestly, there's so many. There's a company called Four Sigmatic that makes mushroom coffees and cocos that is also really lovely. I've tried so many of them. I kind of cycle through them. I'm not tied to one brand. I like mixing it up because, there's different ingredients in each one.
Susan says, thank you. I will try the teas. The yoga classes are fabulous. And Metro Parks has a nice winter hike series as well.
Oh, lovely. That is really great. Yeah. I am just getting established here. So I'm living in Tiffin, Ohio, which is north of Columbus, about 2 hours. And I'm just finding out all of the wonderful programs that are here. Um, yeah, taking my dogs to the dog park every week and, getting out that way is really helpful. And the library here is great with a lot of different programming as well. I encourage everybody, like, check with Parks and Rec, check with your library. The Columbus library system is fantastic. So, the zoo often has winter programming that's really nice. In Columbus, like, there's just so much to get outside and do things.
So, Darlene asked, can you go back through Nervine's discussion? Darlene,
Sure.
do you want to unmute and if you have a very specific question for Lily, or if you just want Lily to kind of do a general overview?
Yes, I missed there was something before tonics and stimulant.
So there are sedatives, tonics, and stimulants in the Nervine category. So Nervine sedatives are things that are calming or sedating. They can help you get to sleep, or they can cut anxiety, in half. Nervine tonics are for people that need their nervous system to be more strong and fortified. So people that have nervous system disorders like Parkinson's or MS can take nervine tonics. And then nervine stimulants are things that, give you energy and stimulate you. And if you do too much or you don't have the right constitution, it can also make you jumpy and anxious, right? Some people just can't do stimulants. Just depends on your constitution. And one of the things that I don't know if folks know, so holistic practitioners, which includes herbalists like me, we look at the whole person. And when we treat you, we don't treat you for a condition. We treat you as a person. And so we look at you and your constitution. We look at your symptom manifestation. We, listen to you about what is going on. Um, and we match you. We kind of play matchmaker between you and the plants. We try and find the best possible combination of plant help for you. And usually, what an herbalist does is after doing an intake and like asking a bunch of questions and talking to you about your situation, they will create a custom formula that is just for you, right? It's not, the thing that you can find on the shelf of the CVS. It is literally just for you and your particular circumstance in that moment. Now, I do that for people, and then, I usually check in with them. I like to check in with them a month later. And at that point, we may want to tweak some things because what we want is change, right? We want to have their circumstance that caused them to reach out for help to be moving that needle. And so that formula may change because your situation has changed and your condition has changed. And that is how holistic medicine works. It's different than modern biochemical medicine, where there is, excuse me, a diagnosis, and that diagnosis has specific pills. And sometimes you're on those pills forever. And sometimes, you're on those pills for a period of time, and then that situation, that diagnosis is gone. Um, that is not how holistic medicine works. We treat people, not conditions.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And if I didn't answer your question fully, you just let me know because I kind of went off on a tangent there.
There's another question in the chat. Is there an herb you would recommend that helps increase circulation, like venous reflux issues in your legs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, we all the warming, circulation enhancing herbs and spices help to do that. Ginger is a really common one, right? So getting fresh ginger root, um and grating it and then adding hot water and making like a very strong ginger tea can help you. All of those things that are warming, the things that we like to add to our baked goods this time of year: cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, allspice, like all of those things enhance circulation. The other thing that really helps enhance circulation is capsaicin, which comes from hot peppers, right? So you can eat spicy food. You can also apply capsaicin topically. And all of these warming, um, circulation enhancing herbs can be used internally and externally. I would highly recommend always doing internal because circulation is an internal process, right? But you can also work to increase blood flow topically in addition to that. And I would highly recommend movement, right? Because movement helps to get circulation going as well. And what you want is to get the circulation going so that there's no stagnation when usually it goes to like the bottom of your legs or whatever. So making sure that you're doing whatever movement is possible for you, um, is really important, as well as taking supplements and eating spicy food. Hope you like spicy food. And one of the classes that I have taught before is food as medicine, and I know that you often do that at Cancer Support Community as well. Um, but cardiovascular, um, herbs in food is super helpful for folks that have either heart conditions or vascular conditions, um, and have problems with circulation. So there are foods that you can prepare that will make it better for you. I highly recommend thinking about that.
Thank you. And then Wanda asks, what is good for leg and feet cramp or spasms?
Mm. So we have to figure out the root cause, right? So cramping and spasms are a symptom of something, right? And there's many different reasons why you may be having these. It could be that you're dehydrated. It could be that you have a mineral deficiency. And so, if you learn about how the muscles work and what they need to contract and expand successfully, there are minerals that you need. And these are just two of the very baseline reasons why you may have cramping, right? Um, So the first thing that I would recommend is drinking more water throughout the day. Easy peasy, right? And then thinking about your mineral content. Now, most of us are deficient in minerals. Our food is denatured, especially if you're eating a lot of processed food or restaurant food. Um, you're not getting the mineral content that you need. So more greens, more vegetables, um, things like that will help. And maybe a magnesium lotion. Haven does make a magnesium lotion that you can put on your legs and your feet before you go to bed. And that often helps folks. And it also helps folks get good sleep too, because magnesium helps people get good quality sleep. But we also have on the Haven site a remedy called Restful Legs, and it's good for both RLS and for cramping. And it's a homeopathic pellet, and you just dissolve it under your tongue as they are happening, and it just sort of melts everything into a relaxed state, which is nice. It's not sedating at all, but it does help with cramping. And I get that problem as well. Um, and so I like to keep it, I have like a little pocket on the side of my bed, but you could keep it on your nightstand too, just to have it there in case it happens in the middle of the night, and then you can treat it. Um, because yeah, those are terrible. I hate those. But drinking more water often helps me. It's one of the symptoms that I get from not drinking enough water, and um, then I know like the next day I'm like, okay, I gotta have my water next to the computer. Mm.
Lily, my president CEO, she likes to drink mineral water. There, I'm
Mm.
not going to mention brands, but there's a that and I don't know if she just likes a taste or if it's a win-win. She's getting hydrated as well as getting her minerals in from drinking that mineral water.
Oh heck yeah.
Just wanted to put that out
That's
there.
really lovely. That definitely helps. And as I say, often our food isn't as healthy as we think because of big agriculture sort of denaturing our soil, and just using chemical fertilizers year after year to make up for the fact that the soil is not built up and full of living organisms and minerals that we need. Um, so, you know, making sure that we are eating as much organic food as possible and wild food. I tend to like to go foraging for things that um, are not endangered, right? And one of the things that you can eat that is so high in mineral content is stinging nettle. Obviously, you need to wear gloves when you harvest it, but when you cook it, it no longer stings. And it is so nutritious, so nutrient dense. And it grows like a weed, grows a lot of places. So, coming home with stinging nettle, making some soup or some greens, really does make it so that you are getting higher nutrition. Um, all of those wild plants that are edible are going to have higher vitamins and minerals than the ones that you get from commercial agriculture, just as a rule. So eat invasive garlic mustard. It is good. I make it into a pesto.
The
Really,
couple
no more questions? I'm happy to answer any and all questions. It doesn't just have to be about stress over the holidays, but you know, anything an herbalist might be able to answer. All right. Um, it was really lovely hanging out with you all. We have 5 more minutes in case anybody thinks of anything, but I am available. I would love to hear from you. Darlene will send you my email as well as the slide deck so that you can, you know, have ways of getting a hold of me. I'm around.
We are so thankful for your partnership with us, giving us your time and your expertise. Um, and you just, such a walking wealth of knowledge. I'm always making notes. Every time you have a class, I'm over here writing notes down for myself So we greatly appreciate you. Just a reminder to everybody that we will be, yeah, Diana has her notebook as well. We will be, as Lily said, sending this out. I did record this morning's session, so this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel because our video library on our website is still under construction. Lily will be back with us in January, and because of this is the end of the fourth quarter for us, I'll also be sending out a survey for SurveyMonkey. Lily volunteers her time, but we still have funders that help underwrite all the services, allowing us to offer our programs for free. So your feedback on those evaluations are really beneficial. In fact, Lily changed her format to have the last 15-20 minutes for Q&A from feedback from a previous evaluation that we did. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and wish everybody a safe and joyous Thanksgiving.
Have a great holiday, everybody.